I'm Hollis Wong-Wear. I'm a writer and a musician, and this is my life story. I think, growing up, my mother never minced her expectation of myself and my siblings to be as great as possible and to be as successful as possible and to be as high achieving as possible. And so in some ways, when I started pursuing my artistic path, I felt like I was fundamentally straying from those high expectations and that desire for me to excel and succeed. Being an artist is not at all the most consistent career to pursue, and and especially for me, it wasn't just like, oh, I want to be an opera singer. It was like, I want to be a spoken word poet. I want to compete in poetry slams. I want to be a rapper. I want to do hip hop music.
You can dim the lights and I'll be shining. Everything you need is right beside you.
So what happened with the Seattle Times was that the Seattle Times came and wrote a story about my band, The Flavor Blue. Sent a journalist. The journalist was super familiar with our discography, asked a bunch of really great questions. Asked me some questions specifically about why, why do you choose to be in a band when you could be just a featured singer like you have been in the past? And then when the article came out in the Seattle Times, the headline was Warmth and Intimacy from the Flavor Blue, about our album Love Notes, and then with Macklemore's sidekick Hollis Wong-Wear. So it was interesting to me, when I saw it for the first time, this is obviously not the first time that I've been, that a piece about me in the press has affiliated me with Macklemore. And obviously, I've been working with them for over 6 years. They're so much of the reason why I continue to do music and pursue music and have the confidence to be an independent artist. So I'd never want to disparage or distance myself from that. But there is a fundamental difference between calling out an association and then subordinating somebody to another person's identity. So to me, I felt like there had been an article written about my band and a act where I am the primary songwriter, I'm the front woman, a project that centers me, in relationship and in partnership with my two other bandmates. And in the 11th hour, as the paper was going out, I basically, a body of work that I've created got just kind of appendaged onto another person's identity, another person's work, just a name, as if at the end of the day to be, that's the culmination of my experience. It's not that I worked in partnership with them or in collaboration with them, is that I was just kind of to the side, right? And it's a perfect example of thoughtless marginalization, right? And so that was what was so interesting, was when I said something about it. I just said something on Facebook. I really just made a Facebook comment, and I was like, yeah, don't really appreciate this. When I think about it, and it took me a moment. In the moment when I read it for the first time, I was like, that sucks. And then I was like, wait, sidekick, for real though? The one word that that we've not your Asian hashtagged, and I was like, damn, not only does that show that the paper of the city that I live in is hella out of touch with how to speak about Asian Americans, and the fact that this media moment happened with Not Your Asian Sidekick, but also just how damaging thoughtless editorial decisions can be. And in my community in Seattle and beyond, we don't want to just be reactive. We're not interested in just always kind of protesting and picketing. We want to create our own realities, because the powers that be and the reality that is not going to move fast enough for us to be heard and included and dignified in the ways that we need to be. So we need to create our own stuff, right? And so when those systems and those existing institutions are ready to partner and work collaboratively with that we're building, and I don't want to make it so us and them, but at the end of the day, it's we as people who want to see social change happen cannot keep putting the total sum of our energies into reforming that which exists, we have to create new realities and new possibilities to really instruct and inform through leadership and through our own, manifestation, what the future needs to be. So that's what it's been on my mind a lot. It's like, obviously, like for me, coming out of that moment, feeling disrespected, I'm gonna engage with them, but at the end of the day, like my activism and how I proceed is not going to be conditional on how they grow. It's gonna be on how I, within my community, grow and what we can grow.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.